三、二、一。So good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's professional meeting. I'm He Guochen, and I will chair today's discussion. So today we are going to evaluate the pitching video presented by Group 2. Their topic is sustainability and the environment. So the main challenge they identify is imbalance between the economic growth and environmental protection. So by the end of the meeting, our goal is to evaluate all 5 proposed solutions, compare their strengths and limitations, and decide which one is the best solution to address the challenge. So before we begin, I would like everyone to briefly introduce yourself and just state your name, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Zhang Mengyao.
Hello everyone, I'm Xiong Shuwen.
Hello everyone, I'm Xu Jingcheng. Nice to meet you.
So hello everyone, my name is Gong Sijie.
Hello everyone, my name is Zhu Houdong.
All right, so thank you everyone. Let me briefly outline the agenda. So first, we will clarify the challenge, and second, we will evaluate all 5 proposed solutions by maybe considering their practicality, feasibility, impact, and sustainability. So and third, we will compare the solutions and negotiate the best one. Finally, I will summarize our final decision and close the meeting. So to begin with, the challenge is imbalance between the economic growth and environmental protection. The economic growth, as we all know, it can bring jobs, it can bring you housing, infrastructure, transportation, and it may bring you a better living standards. However, if the development is not managed properly, it can also create some pollutions, carbon emissions, waste, maybe overuse of resources, and damage to the whole ecosystems. So the key question right here is not whether you are going to choose the economy or the environment. The real question is right here, how can we develop to continue while reducing the environmental harm? So from Group 2's present video, we can see the 5 proposed solution is a green building policy, culture awareness, and reasonable consumption, a green reward system, reconstruction of the development model, and technological innovation. For our decision, I suggest 4 criteria: whether the solution is directly address the challenge, whether it is realistic to implement, whether this impact can be measured, and whether it can work for a long term. So let's begin with the first proposed solution. For the first one is a green building policy. It includes energy efficient building design, eco-friendly materials, renewable energy, tax benefits, and other things like that. However, how would we evaluate this solution in terms of practicality, feasibility, and long-term environmental impact? That's my question.
Okay, in my opinion, this proposal appears critical because it directly connects to urban development. Cities still need housing, office, and public activities. So the solution does not stop development. Instead, it improves the way development happens.
I think that is a fair point. It's also socially capable because people still need better living conditions. A policy that makes construction greener is more realistic than asking society to reduce development completely.
So for this point, from a cost perspective, the main limitation is a high upfront expenditure. Eco-friendly materials, solar power system, and energy-saving building designs all require large initial investment. Without fiscal subsidies or tax incentives, developer may lack motivation to comply with the policy.
I see. I think actually that's an important concern. So what if the initial cost is pretty high? What would make this policy to be more acceptable to the developers maybe?
Okay, I think thanks for question first. I think one possible way is gradual implementation. The government does not need to require all buildings to change immediately because it can start with new public building first and then gradually expand to private projects. This would make the policy more feasible and reduce resistance.
Yeah, I agree, but gradual implementation still need enforcement without inspection, clear standards, and penalties. Some developers may only claim it to be green without making real change.
Yeah, I think Hodong, that makes sense. So from my perspective, I would assign green building policy as the strongest proposal so far because it is practical, measurable, and enforceable. My view is actually supported by the UNEP Global States Report, the report for building and construction, which report that the building and construction consumes about maybe 32% of global energy and contribute about 34% of global carbon oxide emissions. So since the sector has such a large environmental impact, improving building design, materials, energy use, and inspections, it directly targets a high impact area. So although maybe the initial cost might be a bit high, but the limitation can be managed through the tax incentives and maybe financial support and gradual implementations. So maybe let's move to the second one. The second proposal focuses on culture awareness and reasonable consumption. The presenter argued that short-term thinking and customer culture can worsen environmental problems. So what do you think? To what extent would this solution be effective if there was selected as the main solution?
I think this solution is meaningful because environmental problems are also connected to daily habits. People may buy too much, waste food, use disposable items, or follow fast function trends. So changing values and behavior is important.
I agree with Shu in that behavioral change matters. However, raising awareness alone may not be strong enough to drive concrete action. Many people know that disposable products are harmful, but they still choose them because they are cheap and convenient. This shows a gap between awareness and actual behavior.
Oh, I think that's a good point. So are we saying that the culture awareness is kind of useful, but not sufficient as this main solution?
Yes, exactly. Cultural awareness can support environmental policies, but it cannot replace them. Education may increase public support, but it does not directly control pollution or company behavior.
Let me think. Maybe from the perspective of financial input, this solution is cost effective. Environmental education in schools and public campaigns on social media do not require very large investment. However, its long-term effect is difficult to quantify and track clearly.
All right, can see. So actually for my personal view is that the culture awareness is kind of meaningful, but to be honest, it's less convincing as the best solution. Because previously I also looked at the World Bank, they have a report on what a waste, and this is the second report, which warned that the global waste would increase about maybe 70% by 2050 without urgent action taken. So they support that idea that consumption behavior, of course, it matters. However, awareness still depends heavily on individual choices. Like you cannot force everyone to do something like that, right? So it might be too slow and too difficult to measure as the main solution. So we can see that the cultural awareness, they are value, but this impact is less directly to compare with the green building policy, maybe. So let's move to the third proposed solution, and it's about the green reward system. Students can earn green points by bringing reusable bottles, you can see, or maybe refusing disposal utensils. And these points can be exchanged for maybe some reward food or newspaper. I don't know how feasible you think maybe and impactful for is this solution, especially maybe it's under a university setting.
Yeah, from my perspective, the proposal is practical in a university setting because it's simple and easy for students to understand. Instead of only telling students to protect the environment, it gives them direct reason to change their behavior.
Yes, but I would add that its strength is the understanding of human motivation. Many people know what is good, but they need encouraged to do it consistently. Rewards can make sustainable behavior more attractive.
No worries, Shuan. Okay, so my perspective is back to implementation wise. So this solution is feasible because it can use existing digital campus systems such as our student cards or our campus mobile applications. However, if the process is too complicated, students may lose interest. So therefore, the system should provide simple steps, immediate rewards, and clear feedback.
Okay, one strong point is that this solution is measurable. The university can track participation, reduce disposable items, and reward will meet that make the impact easier to evaluate than general awareness can.
Okay, I think you are giving a pretty good explanation, everyone. So from my perspective, the green reward system is practical and of course it's creative, but it's been limited in a scope because it's mainly changed the student behavior on campus. While the original challenge, actually we are focusing more than just the campus waste. So therefore, maybe it is useful, but it's not broad enough to be selected as the best solution. Maybe we can move to the next one to check if they have a better. The first proposed solution is reconstruction of the development model. This means that you are going to changing how countries measure the growth, use their energy, tax pollution companies, and support the green industries, and repair damaged ecosystems from the past time. So how realistic is this proposal in terms of implementation, cost, and governance? You may think about that.
Okay, this solution is very because it addresses the deeper case of the imbalance. If a country only focus on GDP, environmental damage may be ignored. Strategically, this principle is important.
Okay, the idea is important. However, it may be too broad as a practical solution. It does not clearly explain which sector should be changed first, how long the transition will take, or who will lead the reform.
So thanks, Menyao. From an investment and execution standpoint, this plan cannot be rapidly put into practice. Why? Because rebuilding energy system, transforming industrial structures, and restoring damaged ecosystem all require tremendous financial support. Therefore, it is more suitable for long-term national strategic planning rather than short-term action.
I would also highlight the social impact. If polluting industry and restricted too quickly, works may lose jobs. A reconstruction model would need job training, social support, and a fair transition plan.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's kind of comprehensive. For my evaluation, this one is visionary actually, and it's pretty important, but this might be not like the previous one. They might be too broad to be selected as the best solution in this meeting because it requires a national level reform. It might be have to use large bodies, long-term planning, and strong political commitments. Therefore, maybe I think it has a less practical than the green building policy maybe. So the last one is for technological innovation. The presenter mentioned that the renewable energy, the carbon capture, AI-powered industry systems, And smart cities. So what do you think about it? To what extent can technological innovation address the challenge without maybe strong policy support?
Thank you, Chen. So from my thought, technological innovation is clearly impactful because it can improve efficiency. The smart system can monitor energy use and the AI can help industry reduce waste. So it also creates economic opportunities. So it connects sustainability with growth.
Yeah, that's a valid point, but the capital barrier cannot be ignored. Cutting edge technologies such as carbon capture equipment, smart city infrastructure, and AI industrial control system are very expensive. Small and medium-sized enterprise may lack both the funds and the technical teams to apply this green technology widely.
Okay, personally, I believe technology is important. However, it cannot replace policy or regulation. Companies may not adopt green technology if there are no requirements or incentive. So technology needs strong policy framework.
Okay, there is also a governance issue. If companies use technology to report emission, there must be independent verification. Otherwise, a technology may become a tool for greenwashing.
I agree with that. So technological innovation actually is promising and impactful, but it can also be costly, unevenly adopt, and dependent on maybe skills, funding, and governance. So compared with this, maybe it's not that kind of suitable because it gives companies and developers a less clear framework to follow. So I think we can move to the final evaluation part. Like we have now, everyone has your opinion on all the 5 proposed solutions. So before we make the final decision, let us compare the strongest option more carefully. Based on the criteria we set earlier, the practicality, feasibility, measurable impact, and long-term sustainability is mostly important for this kind of evaluation. So which solution you think should be ranked as the best, and maybe you can tell us why?
Okay, my assessment is that the green building policy should be ranked first. Company with the other solution is more directly connected to the change. Urban development is where economic growth and environmental damage often meet.
Yes, I would build on that point. Cultural awareness is important because people's habits do matter. However, as a main solution, it may be too slow and too dependent on individual choice. Green building policy is more convincing because it creates clear rules.
So my aspect is implementation wise. So I consider technological innovation as another strong option. However, technology alone depends heavily on funding and expertise. Green building policy is more concrete because it gives companies and developers a framework to follow.
Nice idea, Jingchen. Judging from implementation cost and overall operability, I would also rank green building policy as a top choice. With one prerequisite, the policy should be rolled out in phases, prioritizing new public construction projects first and then gradually expanding coverage would reduce resistance and make the plan more realistic.
Okay. From a governance perspective, I support green build police as the best solution, provided that the is included. Regular inspection, transport reporting, and penalties are necessary to make the police credible.
Okay, so I think actually that's an important condition. So Can we say that the final choice is green building policy maybe? But for our justification, maybe we must mention the gradual implementation, cost management, and strong enforcement maybe.
Yes, I think that's reasonable. Without those conditions, the policy may sound ideal but not practical.
I agree. Those conditions also make the decision more balanced because we are not ignoring cost or implementation challenges.
All right, so thank you everyone. Good job. After listening to your views, my position will also be clear. So I also support the green building policy as the best solution. I think we are reaching to a recent consensus rather than just simply choose the easiest option. So based on everyone's comparison, the green building policy has the strongest overall balance. It is more concrete than the restructure model, and it will be broader than the green reward system. It will be more enforceable than the cultural awareness and more immediately practical than just relying on technological innovation. So based on that, let me briefly summarize our final decision. So after we evaluate all 5 proposed solutions, we have agreed that the green building policy is the best solution, right? All right. So because it is practical, measurable, and enforceable, it directly addresses urban developments where the economic growth and environmental impact can still happen together. So other solutions, as we mentioned before, that might be meaningful, but they are less suitable to compare with the best solution. Therefore, we will record the green building policy as our final decision, with emphasis on practical implementation, measurable results, cost management, gradual implementation, maybe also regular inspections and governance enforcements. So not last but not the least, are there maybe other matters before we close the meeting?
No other matter.
No other
I
matters.
think no, we are fully covered.
All right, thank you guys. So for your active, thank you again, maybe for your active participate and thoughtful evaluation. With that, I think I can see the meeting is formally adjourned right now. So have a nice day, guys. See you.
Thank
See
you.
ya. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.